YouTube videos are a great thing, but I want to talk about why you shouldn't put all your trust in what you see. What's up, YouTube? Anthony back with another video, and this one may seem a little hypocritical because I post YouTube videos about photography stuff, but I want to talk about why you can't put all your trust in photography YouTube videos. Now, when I first got onto the scene, professional photography, and I bought my first DSLR, I knew absolutely nothing. I didn't know anything about the camera. I didn't know how to work it. I didn't know anything about professional photography or really the fundamentals of photography in general. And I really immersed myself in YouTube to learn everything, the basics, everything. And YouTube videos were a godsend. They were very helpful. I was able to learn a lot. I took that knowledge, I went out and applied it, and I built off of that. It was a great space, and that really was the driving force behind me starting this channel. I wanted to be able to give back to the YouTube community. But fast forward to years later and being a lot more knowledgeable and knowing everything that I know, sometimes I watch YouTube videos, and I do still watch photography YouTube videos. I just enjoy watching them. Sometimes I watch them and they make me cringe. Now, let me say, disclaimer, preface, whatever. Number one, I'm not saying that I know everything about photography. Number two, I'm not saying that my YouTube videos are flawless and that I never say something that's wrong or that I don't do something that is incorrect. Not saying any of that. Okay, this video is not crapping on anybody that makes YouTube videos. It's not saying that my videos are superior, that I'm always right. None of that. Okay, I'm simply making this video for people that were like me years ago, getting into the space. I'm making this video to just say, take what you get as a starting point, but still do your homework and build from that. Okay. So again, I want to talk about why you can't put all your weight in YouTube videos relating to photography. Number one, a lot of times the information that's being presented is just downright incorrect, whether it's from a scientific level, whether it's from a technique level, which I know techniques can be however you choose to do it. But, you know, things have standards, you know, from these different platforms. Sometimes the information is just downright wrong. And if you take that as the gospel and you run with it, you are going to build your photography base on a foundation that is not correct. And it all goes awry from there. You know, it's amazing to me how many people will sit in front of a camera and talk about things that they don't know and that they clearly were too lazy to do the research on to become knowledgeable on it before they make a video. It's kind of one of the things that I don't like about YouTube is that people are more pressed about making a video and getting people to subscribe than they are about actually making sure the content is factual and truthful and is going to help the people that they want to subscribe to their channel. You know, I remember years ago, you know, I used to comment a lot on people's videos, you know, when they would say something that was wrong, because it just really bothered me that they would say something that was wrong. And then if some new person watched that video, they would think that it was right. And I would hope that they would see my comment to know that it wasn't right. And, you know, I got to a point where I was just like, I can't do that. You know, there's a lot of content that is wrong or I don't agree with, but, you know, I can't comment on it all. But you really have to take that into account. Some people don't know what they're talking about, but they just want to make a video on it. And so when you get information, I'm not saying that you can't believe anything that you see or that you hear, but, you know, do your research. If one person is saying it, you should be able to find 100 other videos where 100 other people are saying the same thing, if it really is a thing, because there's so many YouTube videos, there's so much content. You should be able to find multiple videos saying the same thing. So I'm just saying, do your homework. That's all I'm saying. Secondly, there will always be bias in a video that you're watching. Whoever is making that video, they will always have bias even if they preface the video as I'm saying this unbiasedly. I think in a lot of ways, it's impossible to talk about something without bias, because when we talk about things, our past experience and what we know is going to play a factor into how we talk about something. For example, if I'm doing a review on a Fuji camera and I've never used a Fuji camera before, I've never shot with this particular camera, but I've been shooting with Canon cameras my entire life. Regardless of how much I want to be objectionable with this Fuji camera and say, I don't have a vested interest in this camera one way or another, so I'm going to give you my opinion on it in an unbiased way. To a lot of extent, I'm going to be using this camera with my past experience of using a Canon camera in my mind, even though it is likely going to be subconscious. I'm going to, use the menu and say, oh man, this menu it's not very intuitive. Well, what am I basing that off of? I'm basing it off of my Canon camera. So even though I'm saying that I'm reviewing this unbiasedly, I'm using my use of Canon cameras to determine if this menu is intuitive, if the camera feels good, all of those things. So there really is no such thing as, being unbiased. So when you're watching videos, there's going to be bias in those videos. So if you're watching camera reviews, or if you're, getting someone's critique, or, all of these things, that person's bias is going to be in that video. So you have to take these things with some level grain of salt, because that person's influence is going to be in that video, and you don't want that influence to influence you, because you're putting all of your weight on what you're seeing and what you're hearing in that video. So there will be bias. You have to take that into account. Next is, you'll often see their style displayed in their videos, and that makes total sense, right? Like if I do an editing video, I'm obviously going to edit something the way that I edit. And although that's fine, if you put a lot into that, it can really stifle your creativity and you developing your own style, because you'll watch these videos and you'll see what this person is doing and how they're editing their photos. And maybe because you're new in the photography space, or you're new to a particular editing program, you tend to edit your photos the way that you saw in the YouTube video. And that will really go a long way in stifling your overall creativity, because now you're essentially mimicking a YouTuber instead of playing around with things and coming up with a style that fits you and puts the emotion out that you want to put out. So you really have to be careful when you're watching those types of videos, not to mimic and replicate what you're seeing, but use it to gain an understanding of how to use the tools, and then take that understanding of using the tools to develop your own style and your own way of doing things. Now, certainly, if you see a quick way, efficient way, you see shortcuts, that's all good. But when it comes to what you're seeing in general, you really have to take into account that that is that person's style. That's the way that they like to do things. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way. It certainly isn't the only way. And you can develop your own way of doing things. Don't just take what you see and then duplicate that in what you do. Take what you see to get the understanding, then apply the understanding and go from there. And the last thing, and the thing that I probably have come to hate the most about YouTube these days, is that YouTube has really become more about sponsorships and personal branding and selling stuff than it is about core content. When I started watching YouTube almost a decade ago, a lot of the sponsorships and all of this personal branding and that sort of thing wasn't a thing. So, I would watch videos, and the videos were just about the content of what the video was supposed to be about. You rarely had clickbaity titles. There wasn't a million ads in it the way that the videos are today. There wasn't people pushing this product, pushing this brand, selling this preset, doing this. It wasn't about that. It was about just the content. People just made the videos about the content, and we're so far from that now. I don't have anything against, cinematic stuff and B-roll, But sometimes I watch videos and the video is 10 minutes long and it's 9.5 minutes of B-roll and 30 minutes of actual content of what they're supposed to be talking about. And although some people may like that, for me, it drives me insane. I hate that. It's like if I click on a video, for example, to learn about frequency separation, I'm just throwing anything out. I want to see a video on frequency separation. Get right to the point. I don't want to see 10 minutes of B-roll just for you to quickly cover frequency separation. It's a waste of my time. And that's where I think a lot of videos are today. Like people are so consumed with trying to make cinematic videos, and we've gotten very much far away from just actual content. And that's the reason why I don't have any B-rolls in any of my videos. I rarely have any music in any of my videos, and I try to get straight to the point in all of my videos, because if you see my video and the title is intriguing and you want to know more about what the title is saying, I want to jump right in and get straight to that and give you content. If I want to do some cinematic stuff or some B-roll stuff, then I'll say, hey, here's a cinematic sequence of this. But a lot of videos these days, it's not that. It's like the titles are clickbait, and when they're not, you go to it and there's such little content that it really is hard to learn. And I think a lot of people, are very protective of their way of doing things. People don't like sharing information because they think if I teach you how to do things the way that I do things, then you'll start doing things the way that I do things, and then you'll steal my clients away. And I think that's one of the dumbest things in the world, because, one of the biggest things about, being a professional, and one of the biggest aspects of being a professional is you. People can't replicate you. You can do everything that I do in the exact way that I do it, but you're not going to give the client the experience the same way that I would do it. And that's really what you're selling in business. It really is the experience. There's a lot of photographers that are not great photographers at all, but they sell a lot. They make a lot of money because they're able to market well, or they're able to give such a good user experience that they can overlook or maybe don't even realize the inefficiencies of them as an actual photographer. So, I think a lot of YouTubers, they don't want to tell you how to do stuff because they think it's some sort of bread and butter that they have. And I think that's crazy. But overall, I'm just really annoyed with how brandy, these YouTube videos have become. It's just all, every other video. It's like you always know when a new company is on a spree to sponsor videos, because all of a sudden, you start seeing every photography YouTube sponsored by that person. I mean, Squarespace was big for a long time. Now it's Professional Photographers of America. Everybody is sponsored by them, and although, listen, I don't knock anyone's hustle. Okay. I'm a hustler. I don't knock anyone's hustle. Get your paper. But, it just seems very, very interesting that just all of a sudden, I've never heard people talk about, whoever before. And then all of a sudden now, these videos are sponsored by them. And, at the point that videos are sponsored by people, it becomes hard to really know. Sincerity isn't the word I'm looking for, but it becomes hard to really know if what you're watching and hearing and seeing is truly what that person feels and believes. Or are they just trying to make videos that are acceptable to be able to have these sponsorships? That's where sponsorships can get a little dangerous, because regardless of how much you say, they're not paying me to say this, or, they sponsored this video, but I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say. It's not true. To a degree, you're going to keep what you say within enough confinement to where you don't lose your sponsorships. That's just a reality. I don't care what anyone says. You're not going to go on a video and say F Squarespace, they're the worst website design place you could ever go to, because you'll lose your sponsorship. So you may not go left and right selling them like they're the best in the world, but you're certainly not going to badmouth them. So to some degree, people are confined by their sponsorships. And nowadays it's hard to find just core videos where there's not some sort of sponsorship, or there's not some sort of brand push, some sort of product push, some sort of sell, some sort of, whatever. And I know I kind of went off on a little tangent on that, but it's just something that just really frustrates me. So if you're new into photography and you're trying to learn from these videos, unfortunately things aren't like how they were 10 years ago. And, you really have to do your due diligence and do your homework when you're watching things to know that what you're hearing and seeing is factual for whatever it is, whatever information that you're looking to get. So not trying to crap on YouTube. YouTube is still a great place. I still watch YouTube videos every single day, but things are definitely different. Just know that I guess I could have summed this whole video up and I could have just said, do your homework. That goes with everything, right? Because like even like everything, like you see stuff on social media these days where it's like, man, if you just would have did a quick Google, you would have found that that wasn't true. Yet you've shared it and you got a whole feeling and thought on it. It's not even true. So YouTube, same way, just do your homework, right? If you see something, if it's true, like I said, you should be able to find 100 videos that are saying the same thing. That's that. So that's all I got in this video. Hopefully it didn't come off too negative because I do still love YouTube. I make them and I watch them. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you stayed safe, staying healthy. Till the next video, catch you then. And until then, take care.